You may have heard from a sibling or another student that at some point in sixth grade science, you would be adopting a creature. And so this year is not different. If you go through sixth grade science, you have handled a mealworm or had partners that handled a mealworm. Because of our times, because of what's going on, we will not have partners to do this particular activity. But I do want to talk to you about how mealworms are handled and give you some options. So, first option of having the mealworm is always the best option. It'll be what everybody else is doing. It will help everybody collaborate together. But you have some options. So first option is you will have your own mealworms. And the goal of having your own mealworms is so that you can do activities with them. We will be doing experiments with our mealworms. Your second option is to not do anything with live anything. Maybe you don't like bugs or insects or worms. You don't like caring for live things. Maybe you're not interested at all. You might not have a pet at home. That's okay. It won't be as exciting for you, but you can also participate just by watching Mrs. Tomlinson complete the activities. Okay, and I will be completing the activities with the actual mealworms themselves. Okay. Your next option would be a third option would be to choose a pet that you have at home or a plant that you have at home, and we'll be doing similar activities, and you'll just have to change them just a little bit. I'll give you some ideas on how to do that so you can incorporate what you already have at home, or maybe you just don't want to do this with mealworms and you'd rather practice with your cat or your dog or your squirrel. I don't know what you have for a pet, your chicken, or maybe you don't have any like animals running around and you have a bunch of plants, and if you want to do the experiments on a plant, I will give you an idea about that. But one of our learning targets is to actually learn about mealworms. So regardless of the choice that you make, whether it's a live mealworm, watching Mrs. Tomlinson hang out with mealworms, or it is practicing with a plant or an animal that you already have at home, you need to know about mealworms. So your notebook will look the same as everyone else's and mine because you need to know about the life cycle of a beetle. So, wait a minute. Did Mrs. Tomlinson just say a beetle? She sure did. So, you're actually going to take care of a mealworm until it becomes a beetle. All right, so the first thing you need to know is how to handle a mealworm. So to pick up a mealworm, you're going to use a plastic spoon or a folded index card to scoop it up. And when holding the mealworm, you want to hold your hand over the counter or the container to avoid dropping the mealworms on the floor, okay? Dropping a mealworm on the floor could really disturb it and possibly kill it. I mean, imagine falling off of a 3-story building. That would be really horrible. And for a mealworm, that's kind of what it's like. They do have exoskeletons, but that can cause some stress. And sometimes they do get sick or they can get damaged or hurt or injured. Okay, mealworms will not bite you. We have done this year after year after year after year. I'm super old. And they will not bite you. So no worries. There's no way that you're going to have a mealworm in your hand and you're going to drop it and be like, it bit me. It doesn't ever happen. Okay? Water. So mealworms don't need actual liquid water like you would put a water container in out for a dog or a cat or a chicken. Mealworms don't need that. They obtain all the water that they need from a piece of apple or potato. So we'll put a piece of apple or a piece of potato in their container, and that way they can have liquid enough to survive. We have to be really careful with that. Because if you put too much apple or too much potato in the container, it has too much moisture and then you get mold and then they can get sick and die and it gets really gross. So we have to be really careful about the size of the apple or potato. Just really tiny pieces are fine. Health. Mealworms that are sick turn dark brown and stiff, like you will know if they are dead. Just because they're not moving doesn't mean that they have died. But they'll turn very dark brown and get very stiff if they die. Okay? Dead mealworms are stiff, they're almost black, and they should be removed from the container. As the mealworm grows, it will molt. kind of like a shed, a snake sheds its skin. So it will molt, and you'll see like pieces of skin in your container, in the habitat. And you want to remove any molting from the container. Mold is a big problem in small habitats, so it looks green or blue or black, and sometimes it can be fuzzy or appear to be like a spider web. If you get mold, if mold is present, then you need to be sure and clean and dry the habitat completely, okay? As far as food goes, the beetles and larvae eat decaying leaves, sticks, grasses, and occasionally new plant growth. As general decomposers, woohoo, a decomposer, they also eat dead insects, feces, and stored grains. In the classroom and maybe at home, you will want to provide your mealworm with food and bedding. And so what we do and what I do in the classroom that's really inexpensive is I have Jiffy muffin mix, like corn muffin mix, and oatmeal. And I just mix them together, and you just get like some oatmeal, and there you have it. Wait, did you hear that? Cornmeal, oatmeal, mealworm. Yeah, that's why, because they eat meal. Okay, so their habitat. Mealworms live in areas surrounded by what they eat and under rocks and logs and animal burrows and in stored grains. Wherever there's food, you can pretty much find a mealworm. Okay? Predators. So we have to protect our mealworms from predators. You actually might have a predator at home that eats mealworms. You might have a little experience with them, like an iguana or some form of lizard or a gecko, but there are a lot of predators that eat mealworms. Rodents eat them, so rodents would be like mice, right, and squirrels. Lizards eat them, beetles, spiders, and birds, they all eat them, okay? So we want to make sure that they're safe. So if you're putting their habitat together at home, you're going to want to make sure the holes that you put in the container are real small, so nothing else can get in there, but air can go in and out. Behaviors. Mealworms prefer darkness and to have their body in contact with an object, so they prefer quiet environments at room temperature. Today, you're going to read a lot more about how to care for mealworms, and even if you're not using a mealworm, even if you're just watching Mrs. Tomlinson, or you're checking out your cat or a plant or your dog or your chicken or your rabbit or whatever, please make sure you read the information, because that is the information that will also be quizzed on later. So everyone needs to know about mealworms, because at some point in time in your life or another, you will come in contact with mealworms. All right, so you're going to read some information, you're going to do some research about mealworms, and then you'll watch a video about them, and we're going to learn a lot about the life cycle of a grain beetle. So it should be fun, no worries.